In 1882, a working-class family in Sheffield could light every room in their house, cook a hot meal, purify their drinking water, preserve meat for 6 months, and treat a child's chest infection without a single connection to any gas main, any electric grid, or any company. They needed no electricity, they needed no gas board, they needed no chemist on the high street. Your great-grandmother kept that household running with nothing but her hands and what the land gave her. And modern research has since confirmed what she already knew, that many of those Victorian methods were not just adequate, they were superior to the industrial replacements that followed. Number 4 on this list was reclassified as an unlicensed pharmaceutical product under the Medicines Act of 1968. Your great-grandmother kept a jar of it on her kitchen shelf and never once asked permission. Number 13 involves something that falls from the sky for free. A privatized company now sends you a monthly bill for it and pumps raw sewage into your river with the profit. Number 8 explains exactly who made money when your family lost the ability to light their own home. These 25 tricks were not forgotten because they stopped working. They were forgotten because somebody made money when you stopped doing them. Hit subscribe. What you are about to hear is not survivalist fantasy. It is the recorded domestic history of Victorian Britain. Let us count down. Number 25, haybox cooking. Your great-grandmother brought the pot to a rolling boil on the range, then lifted it, cast iron, heavy, scalding, into a wooden box packed tight with hay. She closed the lid. She walked away. 3 hours later, the stew was done. No additional fuel, no watching, no stirring. The insulated box held enough residual heat to finish the cooking without another lump of coal. The Victorians called it fireless cooking. The science behind it is simple thermal retention, a principle confirmed by modern food scientists at the University of Nottingham, who found that slow residual heat cooking preserves more nutrients than continuous high-heat methods. A working family in 1880 could save up to 40% of their weekly coal bill with a haybox. 40%. That was the difference between a warm house and a cold one. The haybox vanished when gas cookers became cheap, not because it failed, because a company needed you to pay for every hour your food cooked. She never paid for those hours. The hay did the work. Number 24, smoking fish and meat at home. Under the current food hygiene regulations, smoking meat or fish at home for sale requires registration with your local council, compliance with Regulation EC 852/2004, and in some cases an inspection by an environmental health officer before you sell a single fillet. Your great-grandfather smoked herrings in a brick chimney behind the house every autumn. No form, no registration, no inspector. He caught the fish or bought them cheap from the harbor, salted them overnight, and hung them over smoldering oak chips for 12 hours. The result lasted months without refrigeration. An entire winter's protein preserved for the cost of salt and sawdust. The government now promotes smoking as an artisanal heritage skill. Courses teach it for £75 a day. Your great-grandfather did not need a course. He needed a chimney and a bucket of salt. Number 23, dripping lamps. In the back kitchen of a terraced house in Salford, your great-grandmother kept a brown ceramic pot beside the range. Every Sunday roast, every rasher of bacon, every cut of mutton. The fat went into that pot. Nothing was wasted, not a drop. When the evening came and the candles were too dear, she poured a measure of dripping into a shallow dish, laid a twist of cotton rag across the rim and lit it. A steady, warm, golden flame, free light from the fat of last Sunday's dinner. She did this for 30 years. Her mother did it before her. The light was soft, but it was enough to mend by, to read by, to put the children to bed by. No one sold her that light, no meter ticked in the hallway, no bill came through the door. It worked. Every night it worked. Number 22, sand and charcoal water filtration. Your great-grandmother did not trust the well water without treating it first, nor should she have. Victorian Britain's waterborne disease was devastating. Cholera killed over 30,000 people in the epidemic of 1854 alone. The household solution was a filter made from a wooden barrel or stone crock, packed in layers. Coarse gravel at the bottom, then fine sand, then a thick layer of crushed charcoal from the fireplace, then more sand on top. Water poured in at the top, dripped through slowly, and what came out the bottom was cleaner than what went in. A 2017 report from the World Health Organization confirmed that biosand filters, functionally identical to the Victorian household version, remove up to 99% of bacteria and over 90% of turbidity. Your great-grandmother did not have those numbers. She had clear water and healthy children. That was evidence enough. Number 21, the death of the kitchen garden. In 1870, An estimated 3/4 of British working-class families grew some portion of their own food. A back garden, an allotment, a strip of land beside the railway. It did not matter where. What mattered was that the household could feed itself, at least in part, without buying everything from a shop. By 2023, fewer than 3% of British households grow any meaningful amount of food. The allotment waiting list in some London boroughs now exceeds 40 years. This did not happen by accident. The rise of the supermarket chain in the 1950s and 1960s began the collapse. Tesco opened its first supermarket in 1956. By 1980, 4 chains controlled over 40% of British grocery retail. By 2023, that figure had reached 67%. Every percentage point of market share they gained was a household that stopped growing its own carrots. But it was not just competition. Council policy systematically sold off allotment land for development. Between 1970 and 1997, over 5,000 allotment sites were lost across England. Sold, built on, gone. The Victorians had no supermarkets. They had soil, seed, and knowledge. A family with a 30-foot back garden could produce enough potatoes, beans, onions, and greens to cut their food bill by a third. They did not need a supply chain. They needed a spade. Today, that same family pays an average of £5,200 per year on food. The garden has a trampoline on it. Your great-grandmother would not understand the trampoline. She would understand hunger, and she would dig. Number 20. Mustard plasters for chest infections. Your great-grandmother mixed 2 tablespoons of dried mustard flour with 4 tablespoons of plain flour, added warm water until it formed a thick paste, spread it on a square of muslin, folded it, and pressed it flat against your grandfather's chest when he came down with bronchitis in the winter of 1891. The heat was fierce. The mustard drew blood to the surface of the skin, opened the airways, and loosened the congestion in the lungs. He breathed easier within 20 minutes. She did not call it a counter-irritant. She called it getting the muck off his chest. No prescription, no appointment, no waiting room. She heard the cough at 6 in the morning and the plaster was on by 1:30. She did not need a clinical trial. She had ears, she had hands, and by nightfall, the cough had broken. Number 19, tallow-sealed food preservation. Your great-grandmother rendered beef fat into clean white tallow. She poured it, still hot and liquid, over jars of cooked meat, fish paste, and potted cheese. As it cooled, it set into a hard, airtight seal. Nothing got in. No air, no bacteria, no moisture. The food beneath that seal stayed edible for months in a cool larder. Not a refrigerator, not a freezer, a stone shelf in a north-facing room. She used this method every autumn to put up provisions for winter. Her mother used it, her grandmother before that. 3 generations of preserved food and not a single case of spoilage between them. Nobody inspected her larder, nobody certified her jars. She knew what she was doing because she had done it 100 times. The knowledge was not theoretical. It was proven by hand, by winter, by survival. Number 18. Selling surplus at the garden gate. In 2024, selling homegrown eggs at your garden gate without registering as a food business with your local authority is a regulatory gray area that can result in enforcement action. Selling homemade jam requires compliance with food labeling regulations, allergen declarations, and in some cases, an inspected preparation area. In 1890, your great-grandmother sold eggs, bunches of herbs, and pots of jam from a trestle table at the front gate every Saturday morning. Her neighbors bought them. Nobody asked for a certificate. The surplus fed the street. The pennies paid for flour and salt. During the Second World War, the government actively encouraged the same practice through the Dig for Victory campaign, begging families to grow more and share more. 50 years later, the same government requires a form. She fed her neighbors. Now you need a license. Number 17, how planning permission killed self-building. In 1880, a working man could build his own cottage. Thousands did. Across rural Wales, the Scottish lowlands, and the counties of England, families constructed their own homes from local stone, cob, and timber. No architect, no planning consent, no building control officer. A man with strong arms and willing neighbors could raise a 2-room dwelling in a matter of weeks. The Town and Country Planning Act of 1947 changed everything. For the first time in British history, you could not build a structure on your own land without government approval. Every extension, every outbuilding, every garden wall above a certain height required a formal application, a fee, and the consent of a council official who had never lifted a stone in his life. By 2023, the average cost of building a modest self-built home in England, excluding land, exceeded £170,000. pounds, largely due to regulatory compliance, architect fees, and building regulation charges. The Victorian labourer spent almost nothing. He used the stone under his feet, the clay from the riverbank, the timber from the coppice. The materials were local, the labour was his own, and the result was a home that stood for a century. The construction industry now turns over £170 billion per year in the United Kingdom. Every regulation that prevents you from building your own shelter feeds that industry. Your great-grandfather built his home. He did not apply for it. He did not finance it over 25 years. He built it with his hands, and he lived in it the next week. That right is gone. The skill is gone, and someone is collecting the mortgage payment. Number 16. Lime washing walls. Today, a British household spends an average of £200 a year on paint and decorating products. Most contain volatile organic compounds that off-gas into the room for months after application. Your great-grandmother whitewashed her walls with lime, quicklime, slaked in water, brushed on with a bristle brush. The cost was negligible. The effect was extraordinary. Lime wash is naturally antibacterial. It kills mold. It regulates humidity by absorbing moisture from the air and releasing it when conditions dry. Victorian hospitals used it on every surface. Dairies, butcher shops, and food stores were lime washed by law. The practice vanished in the 1950s when commercial emulsion paint became cheap and available in colors. The antibacterial properties were lost. The breathability was lost. In exchange, your walls got magnolia. The government now spends millions advising households on damp and mold. Your great-grandmother solved both for the cost of a bag of lime. She never had mold, she had lime wash. Number 15. Straw and horsehair insulation. The walls of a Victorian labourer's cottage were not hollow, they were packed. Straw, horsehair, and lime plaster, tamped between the lath and the outer stone. The plaster breathed, the straw trapped air, the horsehair held it all together. Your great-grandmother did not know the term thermal resistance. She knew the back bedroom stayed warm when the fire died, and the front room did not sweat in the rain. That was enough. Modern insulation materials, fiberglass, spray foam, rigid board, cost between £4,000 and £10,000 to retrofit into a Victorian terrace. They work, but they do not breathe. Condensation builds. Damp follows, then you pay someone to fix the damp. The horsehair plaster never caused condensation. It worked with the moisture, not against it. Your great-grandfather did not need a retrofit. He needed a bale of straw and a bucket of lime. The house breathed. The family was warm. Nobody sent an invoice. Number 14. Lacto-fermented vegetables. Your great-grandmother packed shredded cabbage into a stone crock, pressed it down with her fists until the juice rose, added 2 tablespoons of salt, and covered it with a cloth and a weighted plate. She left it in the larder for 3 weeks. The result was sauerkraut, preserved, tangy, and alive with bacteria that modern science now calls probiotic. A 2021 study published in the journal Cell found that a diet high in fermented foods increases microbial diversity in the gut and significantly reduces markers of inflammation. The Victorians did not have that study. They had crocks of fermented cabbage, pickled onions, and brined cucumbers in every larder from Cornwall to Caithness. The practice died when refrigeration made fresh vegetables available year-round. But refrigeration requires electricity. In a blackout, your refrigerator is a warm cupboard within 12 hours. A crock of fermented cabbage lasts 6 months on a stone shelf. No power required. She knew what she was doing. The science caught up a century late. Number 13. How water privatization turned rain into a bill. In 1989, the British government privatized the water industry. 10 regional water authorities, publicly owned and publicly accountable, were sold to private investors. The argument was efficiency. The promise was investment. Your great-grandmother collected rainwater in barrels, butts, and stone cisterns. She used it for washing, for the garden, for livestock, and, after filtering, for drinking. Rain fell on her roof and she kept it. It cost her nothing. It belonged to nobody. Today, the average water bill in England is £473 per year. The water companies that now own the supply reported combined pre-tax profits of £2.8 billion in 2022. In the same year, raw sewage was discharged into English rivers and seas over 300,000 times. They charge you for clean water, they pump filth into your rivers, and they post record profits while they do it. Meanwhile, collecting rainwater on a large scale now enters a regulatory grey area under the Water Resources Act 1991, which governs the abstraction of water. Your great-grandmother would not have understood the concept of needing permission to catch rain. Nobody owned the rain in 1870. It fell on your roof, you kept it, you used it. In a blackout, the mains stop pumping. The taps run dry within hours, but rain does not know there is a blackout. It still falls, and if you have a barrel under the downpipe, you still have water. Your great-grandmother never paid a water bill in her life. She had a barrel, a filter, and common sense. That common sense is now worth £473 a year to a private company. It is still raining. The barrels are still legal for now. Number 12. Chimney and draft management. The average British household now spends over £1,300 a year on gas and electricity for heating. Smart thermostats, cavity wall insulation, double glazing, heat pumps. The modern solutions multiply, and everyone has a price tag. Your great-grandmother had a fireplace, a set of heavy curtains, and a rolled-up blanket she pushed against the bottom of the door. She understood draft. She knew that heat rises and escapes through gaps. She hung thick curtains not just at the windows but across doorways between rooms, sealing the warm room from the cold hallway. She kept the parlor door shut. She blocked the chimney with a board when the fire was out. These were not primitive measures. They were precise management of a limited resource. One fire could heat a room all evening if the drafts were stopped. Without draft control, that same fire heated the sky. No thermostat, no smart meter, no standing charge. Just a woman who understood where the heat was going and stopped it from leaving. The warmth cost her a bucket of coal and her attention. Today, the same warmth costs you a direct debit. Number 11. Lanolin for healing skin. When your great-grandmother washed raw sheep's wool, a thick, yellowish grease clung to her hands. She did not wash it off. She worked it into the cracked skin on her knuckles, the raw patches on her children's cheeks, the chapped lips of a baby in February. That grease was lanolin, a waxy substance secreted by the sebaceous glands of sheep, chemically similar to the oils produced by human skin. A 2015 study in the journal Skin Pharmacology and Physiology confirmed that lanolin creates a barrier that reduces water loss from the skin by up to 30%, accelerating the healing of dry and damaged tissue. Today, purified lanolin appears in premium skincare products that retail for £15 to £30 per jar. Your great-grandmother got it free every time she processed a fleece. She did not call it skincare. She called it wool grease. It worked better than anything on the chemist's shelf. Number 10. Potted meat. Your great-grandmother slow-cooked beef shin with bay, mace, and a pinch of cayenne until the meat fell apart. She pounded it in a mortar until smooth, packed it into small ceramic pots, and poured a quarter-inch of clarified butter over the top. Sealed, airtight, shelf-stable for months in a cold larder. Potted meat was not a delicacy. It was a system. Cheap cuts too tough to serve on their own were transformed into a portable, long-lasting protein that could feed a working man's lunch for a week. No refrigeration, no vacuum packing, no best-before date printed by a machine, just meat, fat, and a cool shelf. She made it in September and it lasted until February. 5 months from a shilling's worth of beef shin. Nobody tested it. Nobody certified it. It simply worked for decades. Number 9. Rushlights. Before tallow candles and long before paraffin wax, the poorest families in Britain lit their homes with rushlights, the dried pith of the common rush, soaked in leftover cooking fat or mutton grease. A single rushlight burned for roughly 45 minutes. A working family in a Dorset village could gather enough rushes from a single ditch to light their home for an entire winter. The cost was nothing. The material grew wild in every wet meadow from Somerset to the Highlands. The fat was salvaged from the kitchen. In the 18th century, the candle tax, first imposed in 1709, made commercially produced candles a taxable luxury. The poor could not afford them, so they lit rushes instead. The tax was repealed in 1831, but the principle it revealed has never changed. If you can light your own home for free, somebody loses a sale. Your great-grandmother did not need a power grid. She needed a ditch, a bucket of grease, and dry hands. The rush still grows in every county in Britain. It is still free. Number 8. How the energy industry killed domestic light. In 1882, the Electric Lighting Act gave local authorities the power to grant licenses for electricity supply. Within 2 decades, private companies had built power stations across Britain, and the business model was set. You would buy your light from them. Before that act, every household in Britain produced its own light. Tallow candles, beeswax candles, rushlights, dripping lamps, colza oil, and later paraffin. All of them made or purchased by the household and burned without a meter, without a bill, and without a standing charge. The gas companies had already begun the process. Town gas, piped into homes from the 1820s, introduced the concept of paying a company for the privilege of seeing in the dark. The electric companies finished it. By 1935, 2/3 of British homes were on the grid. The transition was sold as progress, and in many ways it was. Electric light was brighter, cleaner, and more convenient than a tallow candle. But something was lost in the transaction. The ability to provide your own light, to never be left in darkness by someone else's failure or someone else's bill, disappeared from British life within a single generation. In 2022, the 6 largest UK energy suppliers reported combined annual revenues exceeding £45 billion. The average household electricity bill surpassed £700. Your great-grandmother lit her home for the cost of a candle mold and the fat from Sunday's roast. She could not be cut off, she could not be overcharged, she could not be left in the dark because a company sent the wrong bill. In a blackout, the grid fails. Every connected home goes dark. A tallow candle does not know there is a blackout. It lights anyway. Number 7. The cold larder. Every Victorian house of any size had a larder, a small room, north-facing, with a stone or slate shelf, thick walls, and a ventilated opening to the outside air. No machinery, no compressor, no electricity. The temperature inside a properly built cold larder held between 4 and 8 degrees Celsius from October to May. That is the same range as a modern refrigerator. Butter, milk, cheese, eggs, meat, and cooked food sat on those stone shelves, and they kept, not for days, for weeks. Your great-grandmother did not need a fridge. She needed a north wall, a stone slab, and a mesh screen to keep the flies out. The refrigerator arrived in British homes in the 1950s, and within a generation the larder was ripped out and replaced with a fitted kitchen. The cold room became a cupboard. The stone slab became a worktop. In a blackout, every refrigerator in Britain becomes a warm box within 8 hours. A stone larder keeps working. It does not need electricity. It never did. Number 6. Elderberry and willow bark remedies. Under the Human Medicines Regulations 2012, any product marketed for the treatment of illness must be licensed by the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. Herbal remedies making specific health claims require a traditional herbal registration, or they cannot legally be sold for medicinal use. Your great-grandmother boiled elderberries into a thick syrup every October. She brewed willow bark tea for headaches and fevers. She rubbed comfrey into a poultice for sprains and swelling. Nobody licensed her kitchen. Nobody registered her syrup. She made it and she used it, and her children got through every winter. A 2019 meta-analysis published in Complementary Therapies in Medicine found that elderberry supplementation significantly reduced the duration and severity of upper respiratory infections. Willow bark contains salicin, the natural compound from which aspirin was originally derived. The science validates her, the law restricts her. She did not need validation. She had elderberries, a saucepan, and 50 years of proof. Number 5. The backyard clay bread oven. Your great-grandmother's bread oven was built from local clay, packed around a woven hazel frame, and cured with a slow fire over 3 days. It stood in the back garden against the house wall, no bigger than a large barrel. She lit a fire inside it in the morning, let the flames die to embers, swept out the ash, and slid in the dough. The retained heat of the clay baked 4 loaves in 40 minutes. The oven stayed warm enough to dry herbs and fruit for hours afterwards. 1 firing, multiple uses, no gas bill. A study by the Real Bread campaign in 2021 found that commercially produced supermarket bread contains on average 15 ingredients, including emulsifiers, preservatives, and processing aids not present in traditional recipes. Your great-grandmother's bread had 4: flour, water, salt, and yeast. Today, building a clay oven in your garden may require planning permission, depending on its size and your local authority. A structure she built in an afternoon now requires a form. 4 ingredients, 1 fire, no permission needed. That was bread. Number 4. How the pharmaceutical industry silenced herbal medicine. The Medicines Act of 1968 transformed the regulation of medicines in Britain. For the first time, any substance presented as having medicinal properties was required to hold a product license. The stated intention was safety. The effect was the systematic suppression of traditional herbal medicine. Before 1968, herbalists, village healers, and grandmothers across Britain prepared remedies from plants used for centuries: chamomile for digestion, valerian for sleep, comfrey for bone healing, yarrow to stop bleeding, meadow sweet for fever. These were not fringe beliefs. They were mainstream household medicine, used by millions of families every winter. The licensing regime favored pharmaceutical companies with the resources to fund clinical trials and navigate regulatory processes. A grandmother with a recipe book and a garden could not afford to license her elderberry syrup. A corporation with a laboratory could. The UK herbal medicine market was worth an estimated £260 million in 2022. The pharmaceutical industry turned over $33 billion. The gap tells you who won. Your great-grandmother's chamomile tea cost nothing. The pharmaceutical equivalent, sold in a blister pack with a patient information leaflet, costs £4.50. Both do the same thing. One made somebody rich. The most bitter irony is this: the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence now recommends certain herbal approaches alongside conventional treatment. The system that suppressed grandmother's remedies has quietly begun to recommend them again. She was not reckless, she was a woman with a garden and 300 years of inherited knowledge. The Medicines Act did not make Britain healthier, it made Britain dependent. Her elderberry syrup worked in 1890. It works now. The only thing that changed is who is allowed to make it. Number 3. Rainwater collection and storage. The average British household uses 349 litres of water per day. At current rates, that costs over £400 per year. It arrives through a pressurized main, treated and pumped by a private company that posted billions in profit last year. Your great-grandmother collected water from the sky. A standard Victorian terraced house with a roof area of 40 square meters receives approximately 28,000 litres of rainfall per year, based on the UK average annual precipitation of 700 millimeters. That is enough to supply a household's non-drinking water needs for an entire year. She had barrels beneath every downpipe, stone cisterns in the yard. She used the water for washing, for the garden, for cooking after filtering. The water was free, the sky delivered it. Nobody metered it. In a blackout, the pumping stations stop, the pressure drops. Within hours, the taps slow to a trickle and then stop entirely. A barrel in the yard does not stop, it is already full. Number 2, tallow candle making. Your great-grandmother saved every scrap of beef and mutton fat from the kitchen. She rendered it slowly in a heavy pot over a low fire, strained it through muslin, and poured the clear white liquid into tin molds with a cotton wick held taut in the center. When the tallow set, she had candles, dozens of them, enough to light her home for a month. The materials cost nothing. The fat was a byproduct of meals already cooked. The wicks were cut from cotton scraps. Before the repeal of the candle tax in 1831, commercially produced candles were a luxury. The poor made their own from whatever fat was available, and nobody stopped them. Today, a packet of 12 household candles costs between £3 and £6. They are made from paraffin wax, a petroleum byproduct, shipped from refineries and sold in plastic packaging. Your great-grandmother made a cleaner product from kitchen scraps. The government now encourages every household to keep candles for emergencies. It is the one piece of Victorian self-sufficiency they still recommend. Your great-grandmother did not keep candles for emergencies. She kept them because they were how you saw in the dark, every night, all winter. Number 1, the Victorian mind. This is not a trick. It is not a technique. It is the philosophy that made every other item on this list possible. Your great-grandmother did not think of herself as a survivalist. She did not use that word. To her, self-sufficiency was not a hobby or a preparation for disaster. It was simply how a household worked. She could light her own home. She could preserve her own food. She could filter her own water. She could heat her own rooms. She could treat her family's illnesses. Not because she was extraordinary, but because every woman she had ever known could do the same. The Victorian household was a production unit. It made light from fat, bread from flour and fire, medicine from the hedgerow, warmth from coal and common sense, water from the sky. Every one of those abilities has since been taken from the household and sold back to it as a service. Your light, your water, your heat, your food, your medicine, all bought from companies, all billed monthly, all dependent on systems you do not control. If any one of them fails, you have no alternative. The knowledge is gone. That is what a blackout truly reveals. Not that the grid has failed, but that you have nothing without it. Your great-grandmother had everything without it. She was the grid. She did not call it resilience. She called it Tuesday. Every item on this list is a piece of her mind. A refusal to be helpless, a quiet insistence that a family should be able to look after itself without asking permission or paying a subscription. That mind is not dead. It is dormant. It is sitting in a recipe book nobody has opened. It is written in the muscle memory of hands that have not kneaded dough in 20 years. It is waiting in the back garden where nothing grows except grass. The blackout is coming, and when it does, the question will not be whether the grid comes back. The question will be what you can do until it does. Your great-grandmother already knew the answer. It is time you learned it too. Pick one, just one. If it rains this week, put a bucket under your downpipe and start collecting. Buy a bag of quicklime from a builder's merchant and whitewash the damp wall in your bathroom. Render the fat from your next Sunday roast and make a single candle with a cotton wick. Plant 3 rows of carrots in the back garden before July. Find your grandmother's recipe book, the one in the kitchen drawer or the box in the attic, and open it. You do not need to do all 25. You need to do one. Tell me in the comments which one you are trying first. Tell me if your grandparents or great-grandparents did any of these. Somebody in your family knew at least half of this list. The knowledge was there. It was always there. That knowledge did not die with the Victorians. It went quiet. It It was pushed out of schools, out of kitchens, out of daily life, not because it stopped working, but because someone found a way to charge you for the replacement. The replacements need a grid. The originals do not. Start with one, the rest will follow.